Verdun was not chosen to be captured. It was chosen to be fed. In early 1916, the German command opened a battle designed not for speed, but for consumption. This was not about taking a city. It was about forcing France to stand in one place and bleed there. When the guns opened, they did not stop. Hours became noise. Days became vibration. The sky cracked again and again, until soldiers could no longer tell where one explosion ended and the next began. Verdun did not feel like a battlefield. It felt like a furnace switching on and never switching off.
Verdun worked because France could not walk away. It was a fortress, a symbol, a promise carved into stone. If Verdun fell, it would not just be a military loss, it would feel like surrender. And the German plan relied on that feeling. The objective was never a breakthrough, it was pressure. Every French unit sent in was expected to be replaced and replaced again until replacement itself became impossible. Verdun was not about winning fast, it was about making survival unbearably expensive.
At Verdun, the sky killed more men than rifles. Shells fell so constantly that soldiers stopped listening for them. The ground moved, trenches vanished, landmarks ceased to exist. Men learned a new fear, not of being shot, but of being erased. No warning, no enemy in sight, just the sky deciding. Survival became smaller, one breath, 1 second, then another. Verdun survived because it was fed. A single road carried everything. Shells, food, medicine, men. Day and night it moved. If the road stopped, Verdun would fall. So it never stopped. This was not supply, it was circulation. Verdun consumed faster than it could be filled, and still the line kept moving. This is what industrial war looks like. Verdun stopped being about ground. It became about meaning. You are here to hold, not advance, not retreat. Hold. Sandbags torn, rifles jammed, hands bleeding. Still they held, because if Verdun broke, France would break with it. And so men endured what should have been impossible. Douaumont was supposed to be a lock on the front line. Heavy concrete, steel turrets, and a name that sounded like certainty. But Verdun didn't break rules the way battles usually do. It broke them quietly. Inside the fort, the air was cold and damp. Corridors curved like tunnels in a ship. Sound didn't travel, it echoed. France believed this place could not fall. Germany believed France could not let it fall. And that belief was the trap. Then it happened in the most terrifying way possible. Not with a cinematic assault, but with confusion. Small groups, wrong assumptions, doors left unguarded, darkness doing the work. German troops moved in careful steps, rifles low, listening for anything that wasn't their own breathing. A fortress can be captured without a battle, if the battle already happened outside, and the inside is simply empty. When word spread that Douaumont had fallen, it didn't just change a map, it changed temperature. If Verdun's strongest wall could collapse, then the rest of this place wasn't a front, it was a system, one that could swallow symbols as easily as men. And once the symbol fell, the counterattacks were inevitable. Because after Douaumont, France wasn't only defending ground, it was defending meaning. The fall of Douaumont did not end the battle. It detonated it. France could not accept the loss, not because of strategy,
but because of what it meant. Verdun without Douaumont felt exposed, wounded, unfinished. Orders moved faster than preparation. Units were rushed forward with incomplete maps, vague objectives, and one instruction that mattered more than all the rest: take it back. The counterattacks did not begin with momentum. They began with confusion. Men advanced into ground that no longer had names, only craters. What used to be roads were lines of mud. What used to be landmarks were piles of shattered stone. Each attack gained meters, then lost them, then tried again. The terrain changed hands, but nothing else did. The same artillery, the same machine guns, the same bodies replacing the last wave. Verdun began to repeat itself: attack, collapse, replace, and with every cycle, the cost rose, not toward victory, but toward exhaustion. By the summer of 1916, Verdun was no longer a place, it was a condition. The battle crossed a threshold where destruction fed on itself. Artillery no longer supported movement. Movement no longer mattered. Shells overlapped so tightly that the ground never settled. Explosions erased the aftermath of the previous explosion. The battlefield stopped having a before and an after. Forests vanished first, then villages, then direction itself. Men did not advance into fire, they lived inside it. Survival was no longer about tactics or courage. It became statistical. To live meant being missed by chance. Verdun was now a firestorm, and everything inside it burned at the same rate. At Verdun, death stopped being exceptional. It became routine. Casualty lists grew faster than explanations. Names were added, crossed out, replaced. Battalions existed on paper longer than they did in the field. Losses were no longer described in lives, but in ratios, percentages, acceptable numbers. Commanders spoke of endurance, not survival, of capacity, not people. A unit was spent, another was available. And somewhere between the figures and the orders, men vanished into accounting. Verdun did not ask who was lost. It only asked how many more could be used. Months passed. Verdun remained. No decisive breakthrough, no final collapse, only ground traded for bodies again and again. By late 1916, both sides claimed endurance as success. They spoke of holding, of not yielding. But endurance was not victory. It was survival stretched thin. Verdun proved something darker. Industrial war could continue long after purpose was gone. The guns slowed. The lists stopped growing as fast, but nothing was resolved. Verdun did not end the war. It taught the war how to last. And what came next would not be smaller. It would be broader, louder, deadlier. The Somme was already waiting. Verdun taught the war how to last. The Somme would teach it how to scale. By mid-1916, the battlefield widened. More men, more guns, more expectations. The plan was simple on paper. A massive bombardment to erase defenses, followed by infantry advancing across open ground. It was meant to break the stalemate, to restore movement, to end the waiting.
For days, the guns fired without pause. Millions of shells fell in patterns so dense that commanders believed nothing could survive beneath them. The Somme was announced in noise, in vibration, in confidence. But when the whistles blew and the infantry stepped forward, the battlefield revealed what preparation had misunderstood. The war had not softened, it had learned. The bombardment ended not with silence, but with expectation. Whistles cut through the noise, short, sharp, final. Men climbed ladders carrying everything they owned, rifles, packs, hopes built on days of shell fire. They did not rush, they walked. The plan demanded order, straight lines, measured pace. Across no man's land, the ground looked broken, but quiet. Then the machine guns spoke, not in bursts, not in warning, in continuity. The first line fell almost immediately. Then the second moved forward, because stopping was never part of the plan. The Somme did not begin with chaos. It began with discipline meeting reality. July 1st, 1916 did not unfold as a battle. It unfolded as a calculation. By nightfall, the numbers were already beyond comprehension. Lines that had advanced in formation now existed only in reports. The plan had assumed destruction. What it met was survival. Deep trenches, intact wire, machine guns untouched by days of shelling. Men walked forward because the schedule required it. They fell where the ground allowed it. The first day did not end with a pause. It ended with lists. By sunset, nearly 60,000 British soldiers were casualties, not after weeks, not after months, in a single day. The Somme had revealed what industrial war could do when belief outpaced reality. The shock did not arrive all at once. It settled. Reports came in fragmented, units missing, gaps where companies had been. Commanders searched for explanations that could preserve the plan. The wire had been underestimated, the bombardment misjudged, the enemy assumed weaker than reality. But the core problem was simpler, harder to accept. The war changed faster than doctrine. What failed on the first day was not courage, it was assumption. And yet the decision was not to stop, it was to adjust and continue. The Somme was not declared a disaster, it was declared unfinished. After the first day, the Somme did not stop. It adjusted. Attacks became smaller, artillery more precise, objectives measured in yards, not breakthroughs. The language changed, so did the expectations. This was no longer about ending the war, it was about enduring it, while learning how to kill more efficiently. New tactics were tested against old defenses, creeping barrages, shorter advances, relentless pressure. The front moved, but barely. The casualties continued, constantly. By the time autumn arrived, the Somme had become routine, not victory, not defeat, a process.
By late summer, the Somme demanded something different. Infantry alone could not cross wire and fire. Artillery alone could not hold ground. So the war searched for an answer that was neither man nor tactic, but machine. Behind the lines, something new waited. Slow, loud, unreliable, but armored. The tank was not built to be elegant. It was built to survive long enough to move forward, and that was already more than men could do. On September 15, 1916, the machines moved. They did not rush, they crawled. Steel shapes broke the line between trench and open ground. Bullets sparked and slid away. Wire bent.
Men followed, not ahead, but behind. The battlefield froze, not in fear, but in confusion. Nothing like this had ever crossed no man's land before. The tank did not win the day, but it changed the question. The promise was real. So were the limits. Engines failed, tracks broke, crews choked on fumes. Some tanks stopped within minutes, others became targets. The battlefield did not transform overnight. It resisted. The machine could survive bullets, but not terrain, mechanics, or time. Still, something irreversible had happened. The war had invited steel to replace flesh.
Even failure teaches. Officers studied reports. Engineers adjusted designs. Tactics bent around steel. The tank would not be abandoned, it would be refined. The Somme did not end with machines, it began with them. The Somme did not deliver victory, it delivered transformation. Men still fought, men still died, but from this point on, they would not fight alone. Steel had entered the equation, and it would never leave.